Okay, let's get started. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Welcome. Let's start off with our meditation. So go ahead and set up your posture, getting into a comfortable position where you can be alert, not falling asleep, but also relaxed and able to sit still. So the back is straight, the eyes are down. Softly open. Shoulders are relaxed. And we're breathing through the nose. So let's start by setting a positive motivation for our meditation and learning today. So a bodhicitta meditation, a bodhicitta motivation is an aspiration, a wish. And we make this wish that others and ourselves may be freed from the difficulties, especially those created in our mind. And in order to do that, we have to grow and develop and become the best people that we can be. So we have this wish to become our best selves so that we can free others, lead others away from their own difficulties and help them to actualize themselves. But in order to do that, we need to know where we're going. We need to make some progress on our paths in order to lead others. So our motivation for doing this class is a wish that we progress on our paths so that we can lead others. And now take some deep breaths to bring your meditative state even deeper. And then become aware of the sensations in your body, taking your consciousness out of your head, dropping it down. And settling into a more relaxed body with each exhale. Now bring your awareness to your nose, your nostrils, and watch the sensations as the air flows in and out of your nostrils. And see if you can't watch your breath in a light way, using maybe a quarter of your attention, and the rest of your mind just rests. So watching gently, watching lightly, noticing that breath without tightening up on it. Letting go of everything else except for this gentle watching of the breath at the nostrils. And now see if you can't notice the rhythm of your breath. Noticing if it's fast, slow, medium. Again, without getting too tight on it. And then bringing yourself out of the meditation, keeping that calm, that sense of peace as we shift. Okay, so let's do some quick review. We have a big topic today. Today we're going to talk about karma, and I have quite a bit to talk about with that topic, so I want to give us a little more time. So yesterday we went into the four immeasurables, which are considered the basis of bodhicitta. And the first one we talked about was loving kindness, and a Buddhist definition of loving kindness is wanting others to be happy. Okay, so it's a sense that we have no strings attached. We don't have expectations that others act in a certain way in order for us to care about them, to love them, okay, to want them to be happy. And then we talked about compassion. So when we hold someone dear, we want them to be happy. We also, when they suffer, don't want them to suffer. In fact, we want, if we can, compassion becomes about doing whatever we can to remove their suffering, to take their suffering away. Okay, so compassion has these two aspects. One, we feel their suffering on an equal basis, not of like, oh, you're this, person who is so much lower than me because you're suffering, but that we know what it's like. We've been there. We know what it's like to have difficulties. We may not know specifically all the details or exactly, but we know what it's like to feel bad. And so we can relate to others based on that empathy. And then we go a step further and we wish for that to be removed. Okay, so compassion becomes about, and I don't want you to have that. Okay, empathetic joy, also known as rejoicing, is being happy for others when good things happen to them, when they have positive qualities, when they have, positive, external situations. We recognize that they have created the causes to have those nice things, and and we celebrate that because we only get pleasurable experiences if we've created pleasurable experiences for others. Okay, and then equanimity becomes about how, first of all, having a balanced mind, not being pulled by external circumstances. When things are really good, we're really happy. When things are really bad, we're really upset. Instead, having more of an even state of mind, an equal or equanimous state of mind. And then equanimity is also about how we treat others, how we relate to others, in the sense of not labeling them as friend, enemy, or stranger based on how they treat us, but seeing all beings as equal in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. Okay, so karma. So the word for karma, it actually means action. And I think oftentimes our modern sort of definition of karma means results, you know, what we experience. Now we have a bad experience and we say it's my karma, when in fact karma means action. So the basis of karma is actually that like causes like, in the sense of, and we talked about this a little bit in terms of the mind, of how the mind cannot be caused by the brain, because the brain is physical and the mind is non-physical. Okay, so we can use an example from the natural world, in the sense of, you know, apple seeds are the cause for apple trees. And you can't plant a watermelon seed and get an apple tree. Okay. So this sense of like causes like, that things have to be, the cause must be similar to the result. Okay. The other aspect of cause and effect in the natural world is that in order for a seed to become a sprout or a tree or a plant, it's not only the necessity of a seed. You can't just have a seed and also have a result without also conditions coming involved. You could say secondary causes. Okay, they're often used, the word is often used condition, but it's also a cause in some ways. So in order for a plant to sprout, it needs good soil, it needs light, it needs warmth, it needs water. Okay, it needs all these other conditions in order for a seed to sprout. Okay, so this is also true for actions that we do. In order for actions to bring a result, the conditions have to be present in order for a result to happen. Okay. Now, one of the conditions, so then we're talking about something that is very complex, aren't we? In terms of, we can't even imagine all the causes and conditions that went into any single result, because it is so complex. We can, like this plant, okay? We can talk about the seed, right, as being the main cause of the tree, and we can talk about some of the conditions, but we can't even go into all the causes that created the soil in order for it to be positive for that seed to sprout, right? We can't even talk about all the causes that went into the weather. The weather alone is so complex in order for that seed to get the water that it needs. And if it's you watering the seed, what about all the causes that went into and the conditions that it went into you even existing to water the seed? Okay. So when we start talking about a specific result of a karmic action, we can only know, like, in general what causes what, but we can't know the specifics. It is just too complex. There's too much going on. Okay. So one of the causes that we talk about when we talk about karma is the cause of the seed that is planted in our mind stream. So in order for the Buddhist concept of karma to exist, we have to have the presence of mind, or the presence of consciousness. Okay, which means that in order for this idea of a positive action leading to a pleasurable result, and a negative or harmful action leading to a suffering result, There has to be the presence of consciousness that is aware of the action that we have done, of the cause that we have created. Okay, so we often talk about, when the idea of karma is that when I hurt others, then I get hurt. Okay, now in order for me to have the experience of getting hurt, I had to have planted the seed on my mind stream of hurting others. Okay, and a big part of that is my intention, because that is also in my mind. Okay, so my intention was to harm, and then I do the action to harm someone, and that plants a seed in my mind stream to receive harm, to experience harm in the future when all the causes and conditions come together. Okay, now I have many, many, many seeds in my mind stream. All of us do, from actions that we have created in our past. But the actual experiencing of those seeds is dependent on many factors. Okay, so we can't use karma to judge ourselves or others based on their situation. Okay, we can't say because someone has a lot of problems in their lives that therefore they are a bad person. Okay, you can't really say that, all right, because of the complexity. Now, so then why do we use karma? We don't use karma in order to judge ourselves or others on our past actions. Okay, because we don't know exactly why. Okay, what we can do is we can use karma in order to create positive circumstances for us in the future. Okay, so we do actions that create positive results so that we create the resources so we can continue to grow spiritually. Okay, so that we can, for example, um, one of the causes in general of being wealthy, of having resources, okay, is that we were generous in the past. Okay, so if we have the experience of receiving from others money or gifts or support or time or whatever it was, it's because we did that for others. We gave to others. Okay, so then if we want to create the causes, like to have the resources to study, to have medicine, to have, health, so that we can to continue to develop our minds, then we support others in that same way, and it creates the causes for us to experience that. Okay, now the results of karma in our mind streams, we don't necessarily know when we're going to experience those results. Okay, it doesn't happen instantaneously because of the complexity, for one thing, of all the causes and conditions that have to come together for any experience to happen, but also because our mind streams have lots of karmic seeds in them, or what we call also imprints. Okay, they're all present in our minds, and the determination of what ripens when is based on also the heaviness, what we call the strength of those karmas. Okay, so what would be really nice in some ways is that if we created negative karmas, if we went around harming others, and at the same time that we harmed others, we also had the negative experience of being harmed, then that would be great, because we would learn very quickly. If I went up and slapped someone across the face and then I hurt immediately, right, then I would learn very quickly that negative leads to negative. But unfortunately, those seeds that are in our minds to have the experience of suffering that we created from harming others don't ripen immediately. Okay, they ripen later. Okay, so we want to create the conditions in our lives that create positive experiences for us until we can be liberated from the whole cycle of karma. Okay, so this is very much based on this, again, this whole concept of interdependence, the fact that many causes come together, many conditions come together. One cause can produce many, many different results. One cause only has a result because of many conditions coming together. So contemplating the interdependence of all things can actually help us see that our actions have an effect beyond just this simple moment of our experience now. You know, like I say kind words to someone, they feel good and I feel good. Okay, right in that moment. So that's like one moment of effect. But to also see that the seed that I've planted on my mind in my mind stream is also going to have an effect in the future is a really good way to see karma, this interdependence, this, you know, growing sort of influence that we have. Okay. So, what are the results of karma? How do we experience the results of karma? And so we do an action, like I said, we say something kind to someone, we compliment them, or we you know, try to make them feel better. The first result is in the experiences that we have. So we have, this is the one that we usually think of in terms of karma, where it comes back to us. What goes around comes around. If I say kind words consistently to people, and I avoid saying mean things to people, then the experience that I have is that people are kind to me. People say nice things to me right back. Okay, so that's the first way in which karma results. The second way is in the habits that we create. Okay, so the fact that I even say one kind thing to one person creates the result that in the future, again, when those conditions come together, I am more likely to say something kind to someone else. Okay, because I have the seed in my mind stream to say kind things. Okay, so if I meditate every morning, you know, at a certain time, then after, you know, let's say 3 months, or let's say even 3 weeks, I've meditated every day for 3 weeks in the morning. The chances of me meditating on the next day after those 3 weeks are higher because I have created the causes, that momentum. Okay, and this is also how karma results. The third way in which karma results is in the environment that we live in. Okay, so when we talk often about the dogs that live at Tushita. So actually, we only have one dog right now, and we have some strays who hang out. So those dogs are actually in this incredible environment, right? They have created the causes to have human beings take really good care of them. Okay, but the fourth one, the realm that we are born into, is also a function of our karma, and it's particularly strong karmas that determine the realm that we are born into. So the Tushita dogs, they are born into an animal realm, which is not necessarily a very positive realm because their minds are pretty much full of ignorance. They are not very smart, right? They don't have language. They can't control, make many choices about their lives like human beings. Human beings are considered a higher realm to be born into, okay? But they're born into a really nice environment, okay? So we can contrast that with some human beings who have, you know, human minds, but their environment may not be very nice, okay? So the karmic seeds that have ripened for them at the time of their birth may be that they are born into a positive realm, but their environment may not be supportive. And we're talking, of course, in terms of support for spiritual development. Okay, having the resources that we need, having the education, the family that, you know, raised us well, taught us morality, having the culture that allows us, you know, free expression of religion. This is an example of the environment, you know, that we are born into or that we live in. Okay, and so our karmic, you know, the karmic actions that we do, the causes that we create influence these things in our lives. Okay. Now, the results of karma, if they're in the situation that we have, if they're particularly powerful, like if they're and in the text that you can download on the Tushita website, you can there's a whole there's a couple pages on karma, and the last two pages, I think it's page 7, talks about what karmas are heavier and why. Okay, so you can go and look at that. I don't want to go into that now. Okay, but these are the ways in which karma results. Also, so then I wanted to talk about the characteristics. So I'm going through this pretty quick, and I'm going to share the PowerPoint at the end of the course. We'll upload the PowerPoint so you can look at them again. And also, we're going to go deeper. The next course, we're going to do another 2-week course, and we're going to go deeper into these things. So for now, I want to give you as much of an introduction as I can. Okay, so the characteristics of karma. So one of the characteristics of karma is that positive only leads to positive, and negative only leads to negative. So you can't have the intention to harm someone and at the same time expect that that's going to create a good result, a positive result. It doesn't work. And it's, of course, it's hard to know. So many causes and conditions go into things, but again, the most powerful is our intention. So if we have a very positive intention, like for example, to be generous, we have a positive intention that we want to give to others so that they have what they need, whether it's food or shelter or medicine. And we have this very powerful positive intention. And then we use our wisdom. We need to use our wisdom, of course, and we give to, say, an organization that we believe is going to use our funds well, that is going to, we're giving to an organization that is going to get to the people that we want it to get to. Okay, so that creates very positive causes for us to experience positive results in the future. Now, if that money is used out of our control, we don't have, say, there's someone within that organization who is embezzling the money and it doesn't actually get to the people. We aren't responsible for that, okay? Especially since our intention and our wisdom was so much in the direction of this, okay? The second characteristic of karma is that the results are larger than the cause. So what we say is that karma increases, especially if we encourage it with other acts of, let's say, kindness. So even a very small act of generosity, a very small act of, giving a little bit of money, a very small amount, that actually can have very positive results and result in us, winning the lottery, maybe in a next life, something like that. And they use the reason why they use this is that if you think of a seed of a tree, okay, so like an acorn, which is about maybe that big, an acorn it will result in a very big oak tree if all the conditions come together. Okay, if it is supported, if the tree is supported, it can result in a huge result. So if we consistently, are generous, are kind, avoid harming others, have positive intention for others, then we create this momentum in our mind and in our reality to have very positive experiences, to have the world, to create an incredible environment for ourselves, to be born again as a human being so we can continue our spiritual path. Okay, so don't underestimate very small things. Okay, even very small things, if we encourage them, can result in very positive, very increase, but also very negative things. If we consistently lie, we sort of fudge the truth because we're embarrassed, or we don't want to really admit to things. If we do that consistently, then we create the causes for people not to trust us, to not trust what we say, to lie to us. Okay, so even very small lies can eventually, when they build up and over time, can become really big lies, and then we'll never be able to trust anyone. Yeah, the more trustworthy we are, the more that we bring people into our environment who are also trustworthy. Okay. And then the third one was we won't experience the result unless the cause is created. So I use the lottery. We can't, we can wish all we want to win the lottery, and we can want and want and want. But if we never actually buy a lottery ticket, we're never going to receive anything, right? We're never going to win the lottery if we don't buy a lottery ticket. So this is my difficulty with this. The Secret, I think, was the name of the book, and Power of Positive Thinking. And I think that Buddhism really agrees with that. What we have in our minds definitely encourages what happens for us in our lives, and especially our attitudes toward it. But we also have to do the action. We have to have the follow through. We have to create the causes with our actions in order for those to bring their results. So we have a powerful positive intention, we do the action, and then we we celebrate it, we rejoice about it, we complete it. Okay, so all these parts have to be present for a complete karma to happen. And if we don't create the cause, we won't have the experience. So if we're never generous, if we're always miserly and we only hold on to what we have and we keep gathering and gathering and gathering, we're not going to create the causes for others to give to us. Okay, same with kindness, same with using how we use our words, what we do with our actions, how we respect others. If we want respect, we have to respect others. It's just, it's pretty common sense in many ways. And then the last characteristic is that karma does not disappear. Okay, when we've created the causes, it is planted on our mind stream. And unless we do something called purification, it's not going to go away. We're going to eventually experience the results. Okay, so if we harm others and we don't stop that harm, that seed from ripening, then we are going to have the experience of others harming us. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about purification. So here, I'll share this. So purification has 4 parts. Now, we already talked about the fact that when we create a cause, when we do an action, whether it's physical, whether it's with our body or our speech or our mind, okay, we can have mental karmas that are positive or negative, particularly in the thoughts that we generate. So if we create, like, for example, someone harms us and our response to them is to get angry, okay, which is okay. That first response, that immediate response, is not necessarily creating another karma. But if we then get angrier and angrier and we start plotting, retaliation, and we start, thinking about how horrible they are, and we spend all this time thinking about what a bad person they are and how much we want to harm them, then that starts to create mental karma and can have an effect, obviously, on our minds, whether we follow through with the action or not. Okay, meaning that then the seeds for us to get angry again are going to be planted in our minds. So then if we follow our anger, if we elaborate, if we encourage our anger, we're more likely to get angry again. Okay. Now these seeds are mental. Okay. Meaning that how we experience the conditions that come into our lives are also the effect of the karmas, the mental seeds that have been planted on our mind stream. Okay. So for example, this anger one. I get angry at someone else. I have the seeds to get angry again, and then the conditions come together for someone to harm me, and I get angry again. Okay. Now, if I don't want that seed of anger to ripen in my mind stream, then what I need to do is create an environment, the conditions around that seed that will keep it from ripening. Okay. So instead of encouraging that seed of anger, I can create like a hostile environment. Okay. So one way in which I can do that is that I can immediately regret my action or my tendency. Okay. I can regret the fact that I yelled at that person. I can regret the fact that I harmed that person. Okay. I can feel, oh, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I didn't harm them. I don't want the suffering. I don't want them to suffer. I don't want me to suffer. And that immediately starts to help that seed of that I planted on my mind stream to wither, to like shrivel, to not be able to ripen. Okay. So I can do that with all four of these purifications. So the remedy is doing an antidote, something opposite to what I did, as far as like if I yell at someone, then I can apologize for one thing, and that's a start. I can say something kind, like, I'm very sorry that I hurt you. I can also speak, consciously speak kind things, say nice things to others. So I can walk around for a whole day as an antidote to that one thing that I did, and I can use my speech to promote love, to promote good feelings, to make people feel good. Okay. And that is the remedy. Okay. The reliance is about support. Okay. So in our minds, we create the supports for us not to do those same actions again. Okay. So some people rely on the Dharma, okay, on their practice of Buddhism. So they rely on they reaffirm their commitment to become a kind and more spiritual person. So for example, Buddhists will say refuge. I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, which means that I trust in the Buddha's words. I'm following the Buddha's path. I'm trying to be a good person. So we reaffirm, like, it's interesting in Catholicism, they do this antidote, and the reliance they do together through saying a rosary. So they bring their connection to God closer to their hearts, and this becomes their support for them continuing to be a better person. Okay. And in Buddhism, we connect with our path, with our commitment to our spiritual path. And part of our spiritual path is not harming others. So we rely on our commitment to not harm others to keep us from harming others in the future. And this creates a very positive environment in our minds for that suffering seed not to ripen, but for other seeds to ripen. So it's like a garden. Okay. So if you plant a garden and there are some seeds in there that are weeds. Okay. So instead of and those weeds, start sprouting, right? But we instead are planting all these positive flowers. We're planting all these vegetables, and they're just going to choke off any few weeds that we have. Okay. So we're planting this garden, and we're saying, okay, the garden of my mind is one that is positive. And we rely on those supports that will create a positive garden in our minds. And then the last one, the resolution, is about making a promise that we are going to not commit the act again. Okay, so you can't, purification doesn't work in the way of like, I say, you know, I'm mean to someone, and then I, you know, and then I regret it, and then we, you know, and then I try, you know, I apologize, and then I say I'm really going to try to be a good Buddhist, but then I go out and do it again, right? And then I think, oh, I'm going to purify again. It doesn't really work that way. This fourth one is about the resolution, the promise that you're not going to do the action again. Okay, so you do have to make a promise saying, as much as possible, I will be kind. And if there's someone in your environment that you have difficulty being kind to, you know, like let's say, we have a family member who's very irritating, and we have this tendency to just be mean to them, you know, to be sarcastic and say mean things. They just kind of get under our skin. So then what we do with our resolution is we say, okay, for the next 5 minutes that I'm interacting with this person, I am going to be aware of my speech, and I am going to be kind. Okay, so, and we start as small. We start with, you know, 5 minutes, and then we expand it and we make it bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, especially if we have habits that we have tendencies to do, like if it's, you know, telling white lies, or if it's talking behind people's backs, or, you know, whatever it may be. Or yeah, whatever it may do, any kind of a non-virtue. We resolve that we're not going to do it again in the future. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to present. And if you have some questions, we can take some questions now.
Okay, I'll start with one person who wants me to read their question. So
Okay.
It says, what if you started a job with positive intentions where you put your love and energy and your time, but your boss is not appreciating it and has the intention to harm by saying mean things, not even paid a full salary? How can I still show compassion, and how is this karma related?
Okay. So the circumstances that we experience are the result of karmic actions that we've created, but not completely, of course. There are other conditions that go into it. So your experience of your job, of having a person in your life who is treating you disrespectfully, or yeah, is harming you in some way, is of course partially the result of your having harmed others in the past. Okay, so having compassion for that person is a different. Okay, so one way you can look at it is that the experience of having your boss harm you is also the fact that you are getting rid of negative karma. You are experiencing the results of the seed that was planted in the past, and by not then in turn harming that person, like retaliating, getting back at them, if you don't do that, then that seed finishes. Okay, you get done with that karma. All right, you get finished with that karma, and you won't have to experience it again in the future. Okay, so this is one way in which we can start to look at the negative circumstances in our life, is that we're finishing the karma. If we don't then create more negative karma in response to that harm. Okay, so having an attitude of taking partial responsibility. Now, that doesn't mean that your boss isn't also responsible for the acts that they're doing toward you. Okay, so they, you know, when in any interaction, it's not all your karma, it's not all that other person. Okay, it's partially you and partially the other person, isn't it? You come together in order for an interaction to happen. Okay, so then having compassion for your boss, recognizing that they aren't finishing their karma, right? They're actually creating the habit to experience the negative experience of harming someone, of someone else harming them. Okay, so we can have compassion for them in the sense that they're creating the causes to experience harm again in the future, whether it comes from you or not. Okay, they're create, and so then we can have compassion for them, and we can have understanding for them, and we can actually try to, by us not retaliating and not getting back at them, we can actually create the causes that will help them, hopefully, to learn not to continue to create negative experiences for them in the future. Okay,
All right.
next
Now
question.
I'm going to unmute Fernando. You can now ask your question.
Hello. My question is, does a positive action makes you experience pleasure or happiness? And so in that relation, is pleasure the same as happiness?
Yeah, I guess it depends on your perspective. We could say that pleasure and happiness are the same. Okay, we could define them as the same. But in general, we think of pleasure more as related to sense experiences. Okay, and happiness can include pleasure, but it also, happiness can include something that is more lasting, something that is more intrinsic or internally experienced and not necessarily dependent on external circumstances. Okay, so karmic causes can result in either. You know, we can create the causes to have pleasurable experiences that are the senses. We can also create the causes to have lasting happiness. And through meditation, we try to create the causes to have happiness that is lasting. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank
Sure.
you.
Okay, now I'm going to unmute Disha. You can now ask your question.
Hi. So I have this question. Is it okay to perform a certain karma because of the fact, knowing the fact that we are going to receive the same karma back? Won't it be selfish when we, for example, if we are nice to someone thinking that, okay, the other person is also going to be nice to us, so let's be nice to that person.
So, unfortunately, because we have this idea of a self that is somehow separate, concrete, we will always have this sense of we are doing it for ourselves. Okay, so that will always be present in any karma that we create. But we can have stronger intention, and that's why we set our motivation, and we generate very positive intentions that actually start to broaden our motivation. So yes, you don't want to have a motivation that is only self-important, that is only for yourself. And yes, that is selfish. But if you can acknowledge that, yeah, I'm gonna benefit from this too, that's fine, okay, until we can get rid of that sense of self. But also you want to encourage and make your intention more, as much as possible, about the other person.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah. So you say, yeah, I know I'm going to benefit for you from this, but I really am doing it to try to help you more. I would rather my intention be about helping you more than about helping myself. So we try as much as possible to make it more about the others, because yeah. And eventually that boundary between self and others starts to dissolve. And what I do for others is also benefiting me. What I do for myself, I do to benefit others. So eventually that self and other dualism, right, that this mind is so stuck in, starts to, we start to see that those separations are not so solid. And then it becomes, we do good for doing good. We relieve suffering for relieving suffering. And it doesn't become about self and other.
So how do we get over the fact that we are not different from others? This concept of dualism, how do we get over that fact? Because right now we still think that we are individuals and we are different.
Yeah. We meditate on interdependence. Okay, the fact that we are so connected to others. And we'll get to selflessness and emptiness, I think, in tomorrow or the next day. We'll do selflessness, and so meditating on those two concepts can really do that.
Okay, thank you.
Right? Uh-huh.
Okay, now I'm going to mute Gilbert. So now you can ask your question out loud.
Hello.
Hi, Gilbert.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
So my question is, how do you be more conscious daily of being conscious and more aware of your actions and thoughts? So basically being more mindful in order to create these conditions for karma to exist, to be good.
Okay. So it always starts on the cushion. Okay. So the first way is that you practice your calm abiding, and you
Okay.
practice, watching your mind while you're breathing. And that helps you to make your mind more flexible, more pliable, more able to be directed in the direction that you want it to be. Okay. So it makes your mind more workable. The second thing that you do, and what I did was I made a specific part of my day in which I would practice being mindful. So some people do it when they're brushing their teeth. Some people do it when they're cooking or, doing the dishes. I had a walk that I think it took me maybe 10 minutes to walk down to work every day when I was living at this one Dharma center. And I made my walk be as mindful as possible. So then I was in action and I was practicing being present. And it shouldn't be too complex of an activity. Okay. You can do it with driving. You can do it, like I said, with dishes, whatever, trying to stay present fully with a specific activity for a certain amount of time helps then it to carry over in other situations.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, now I'm going to mute Apurva. So you can ask a question. There we go.
Okay. How can I become aware of a bad karma if no one around me expresses hurt? So how can I regret if I have no awareness in the first place?
Okay, so we become aware of past negative karmas through suffering experiences. So if you have no suffering in your life, then my guess is that you aren't aware of the suffering that is happening in your life. And the reason for that is maybe because you are not aware. So we had that one teaching, I don't know if you were there, where we talked about the different types of suffering. Okay. So suffering of change, suffering of suffering. And most human beings, and I think I would have to say all human beings, are suffering in some way. Even if your circumstances are, seem to be perfect, you still are subject to aging, sickness, and death, just like all of us. And so that is suffering. So I'm not sure I'm getting your question. People don't express hurt around you. So how do you know you have negative karma? Is that your question?
No, so the question is that so if I have done an act,
You have what?
intent to cause harm to someone, and but I still end up hurting a few people, but they do not say anything to me. How can?
Then how do you know you hurt them?
Yes.
Well, maybe you didn't.
No, but so there are times that I personally feel hurt, but I do not express hurt. So I'm assuming that other people might be doing that to me as well.
Yeah, you can't really control other people. So, and remember, intention is more important. So the more that you are, have the intention to not hurt others, the better off you're going to be. Okay. So if you could focus on that, no matter if they express their hurt towards you or not.
All right.
So it's, yeah, looking at your own mind and your own intentions is the best way to work with your karma.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Let me see 1 second. Mhm. Okay, I'm going to unmute Jyotsna. You can ask your question.
Good morning.
Hello.
Yeah, I want to ask this question that, many a times, like there was one person who asked a question about an employer not paying, even though the person is working. There are times when an employer may be exploiting many people and not just yourself. Okay, or even in the case where, say, recently there was this Nirbhaya case where 4 people were, given death sentence. So where the person has wronged someone else and you feel really upset about it, is it wrong to want to bring justice or correct that person or have the person punished?
No, absolutely not. And actually, being compassionate both for the people who are being exploited and the people who are doing the oppression means that compassion is not just rolling over and doing whatever anybody else wants us to do. It's not about being a doormat. It's not about being weak. In fact, compassion can be very powerful, and stopping a person from hurting others who is then also hurting themselves can be the most compassionate thing that we can do. And so being the stopping them is the best, not trying to harm them because they're harming others, but trying to stop them from harming themselves and others is, yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. May I ask another question?
Sure. Sure.
I've been asking this because I didn't get a chance because, like in meditation, at times I'm not able to focus because my mind gets distracted by a lot of thoughts. And there are other times when I'm able to focus, but I feel so relaxed that I tend to feel sleepy. So how do I kind of strike a balance?
Yeah, so the balance between that tightness and the looseness is when you get tight, you relax, and when you get loose, you tighten up. So it starts off that it's much wider. We go back and forth much more extreme. And the more that we apply the antidote to tightness and the antidotes to looseness, the closer it comes, okay? So that then our going back and forth becomes even smaller and smaller and smaller until we get to that sweet spot and can follow it completely. But for the time being, because it's more extreme, it's more obvious, it's more gross, we have to apply, when we're over here, we apply this antidote. When we're over here, we apply this antidote, and we go back and forth until we come, closer and closer. So the key to this is the introspection that is aware of when we are starting to move toward being more excited or more distracted, and when we are starting to move toward being more relaxed or too loose. Okay, so it's while we are in as balanced as possible, when we start feeling like a thought is going to drag us away, as soon as we notice it's starting to pull us, then we immediately bring it back and relax. Okay, as soon as we start to notice that we're becoming fuzzy, okay, then we bring it back, we tighten up just a little bit, slightly. So it's a matter of being aware when we're moving in those directions, and even applying the antidotes in a more soft way so that we don't do this rubber band effect where we go all the way over to the other side. Okay, so we relax, we get too distracted, we relax a little bit so we don't go all the way to the other side and get too loose. And if we, if we start falling asleep, we tighten up a little bit, but not so much that it creates distraction. Okay.
So what do you mean by tighten up, like when you're feeling too relaxed?
So when you're too relaxed, tightening up means that you become more engaged in what you're focusing on. So you look more closely at the breath. That's how you tighten up a bit. You bring the mind more involved into the object.
Thank you so
Sure.
much.
Okay, so let's move to meditation.
Should we do karma or purification, Venerable?
I think we have time. We've got 23 minutes. I think we can do purification.
Okay, cool.
You up for that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
All right. So let's go back to a comfortable posture, everyone. Try your best to find yourself in a posture which is conducive and that can allow your body to relax, but at the same time be stable, grounded. And let's start by allowing the bell to bring you into the space of the body. And allowing your awareness to become grounded in the sensations of contact between your body and whatever surface you're sitting on. And expanding the awareness to cover the entire space of the body. Take a moment to notice your own posture. To adjust any points that might be slightly off, especially trying to keep your back loosely upright. And to allow any points of tension in your body to soften and relax. And taking a few deep breaths in order to bring your body back to its natural state. Filling in the lungs to their full capacity and then gently releasing and letting go of the breath. As you do this, release as well all tension, release all worries and concerns. In a sense of peace and calmness. There's nothing you need to worry about right now. And now simply letting the body rest in its natural state. We let go of observing physical sensations. We let go of breath. We let go of the body. And bring the awareness into the space of the mind. So now we're going to engage in the practice of purification as done in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. As it has been said, purification is a process which is basically psychological. It is our own mind that creates negativity. And it's also our own mind that can transform that into positivity. So we make use of this practice to transform those negative karmic imprints by applying the four opponent powers. So begin this practice by bringing to mind some negative actions that you've done in this life. Take a moment to recall whatever actions you did that that were destructive and that harmed ourselves and others. And doing this without judging yourself, simply bring these actions to mind. And then if you like, you can focus and choose a particular action that you did in the past that you want to purify immediately. An action that may lie very heavily on your mind, something that you want to transform immediately. And so we go through the four opponent powers in order to purify this action. And we start with the power of regret. And regret does not involve guilt. Without blaming ourselves for what we've done, we simply acknowledge that the action was detrimental for ourselves and for others. Without being judgmental, without beating ourselves up, we bring up an honest feeling of regret, being sincere with ourselves. Because we accept that this negative action will bring us suffering in the future. Who wants that? Generate this feeling strongly within your mind. The very basis of regret, not wanting to receive the results of this action in the future. And with this sincere feeling in mind, we go into the second power, the power of reliance. And we do this practice today by turning to these methods taught by the Buddha, taking refuge in these methods to practice them, relying on them. And doing so by bringing up the mind of compassion, giving rise to the thought, whoever I might have hurt with my negative action, whatever sentient being had to suffer, including myself, I do this practice also for them. So for a moment, give rise to a mind of loving kindness towards others, thinking, for all the sentient beings, I do this practice, purification. And next we practice the power of remedy. This is the actual practice of purification. Since the negative action was committed with our body, speech, and mind, we will do this practice in 3 stages, purifying each one of them after the other. And we'll be doing this by doing some visualization, recitation. So start by visualizing in the space in front of you your own inner wisdom, your own inner potential. Visualize this as a body of white light, a body of enlightened energy in a visual form. If you feel connected, you can visualize this white wisdom light in the form of the Buddha or whoever you feel most connected to. Whoever symbolizes unconditional love and compassion for you. Whatever spiritual figure or whatever person symbolizes these qualities. Or you can simply keep it as the source of white wisdom light, symbolizing the pure energy of the universe, your own inner enlightened potential. So just take a moment to generate the presence of this enlightened potential in whatever form is most comfortable for you. Don't worry too much about the appearance, but rather the feeling of being in the presence of an enlightened being. So now that the visualization is stable, imagine that this form of light crown of head. And in the chat room, I shared an image of Shakyamuni Buddha, which contains also this mantra. And so in order to go to the purification process, we will recite the mantra to purify the body, speech, and mind. So doing the first recitation, visualize that from the heart of the enlightened being on our crown, white nectar pours down into our body, filling our entire being completely with wisdom light. Imagine it flushing all our negativities committed with your body, flushes it out, leaving your body in the form of a black liquid. So as we visualize this, we recite the mantra 3 times. Tayata Muni Maha Munaye Soha. Tayata Muni Maha Munaye Soha. Tayata Muni Maha Munaye Soha. Imagine that all your negativities of body have been purified. That now there is no way that your body cannot be only used for the service of others. And with the second recitation, imagine how more light flows down into your body. This time filling your body from the bottom up to the top, like when you fill an empty glass with water until it overflows. And as you do this, visualize how all the negativities of your speech disappear, flowing out of your body through the top parts in the form of an inky liquid. And again, we recite the mantra 3 more times. Tayata Muni Aha Munaye Soha. Tayata Muni Maha Munaye Soha. Tayata Muni Maha Munaye Soha. Again, feel happy that all your speech has been purified. Now there is no way that your speech can be used with harmful or deceitful words. It can only be used to benefit others. And for the last recitation, visualize light coming down that enters your heart. White light, which possesses all the qualities of wisdom, loving kindness, and compassion, which clears out all the negativities of attachment, anger, and confusion, which disappear in an instant. Just like when you turn on the light in a room which has been dark for a very long time, that darkness is instantly dispelled. So as we visualize this, we recite the mantra again 3 more times. Tayata Maha Munaye Soha. Tayata Muni Maha Munaye Soha. Tayata Muni Maha Munaye Soha. And now feel that you are completely purified, not one atom of negativity left. Now your body, speech, and mind are completely pure, and they can only be used to benefit others. So feel the joy of that, and abide in that feeling for a while. And to conclude, we go into the practice of the fourth power, the power of resolve. So having this action in mind, make a strong determination not to commit that negative action again in the future. And be realistic to make this determination, make it personal. You can make a commitment for yourself if you feel that you can achieve it. Saying maybe I won't do this action for a period of 6 months or 1 month or 1 week or whatever you think you can manage. This determination is important as it becomes a beacon for our other actions to follow, taking us away from our negative habitual patterns and constructive new positive habits for us to follow. And then simply visualize that the enlightened form of light melts into you, comes to your heart. And for a moment, simply abide in a state of calmness, connecting with this clear nature of your own mind. And gently coming out of the meditation. Now making use of your purified body, speech, and mind to also offer and dedicate the merit of this session, of this practice, to the benefit of all sentient beings. And for that, I'll read from Shantideva's dedication, as usual. By this body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored and find a repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain, to dispel the mysteries of the world.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.